What's up, Chris?
Friday,
It's
Friday.
Friday.
Everybody's losing money. It's Friday. Uh,
I mean, we're
um,
laughing, but it is
it's
not
not funny
funny.
at all.
But,
No,
you know,
but you got to make light of those types of situations, right? Like this is
right,
it's you got to like have levity or whatever, brevity.
right.
Um, uh, welcome everyone to the e-commerce hour by On the Rocks. As we talked about last week, we knew that the current administration was going to whip out some tariffs, and ooh boy, did they!
And you
And
get a tariff, and you get a tariff. We all get tariffs.
let's go.
Let's go.
Um,
Yeah.
just that image of the president with the like board, the little board with all the different countries and the tariffs that they like. That's just going to go down in the history of time as maybe one of the most bonehead. I mean, we'll see. But
It's going to be right next to the one of that hurricane where he took the
where with the
Sharpie and he
Markey, yeah.
took it out to Alabama. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Regardless,
yeah, and we're going to get into some things about that too, because
yeah.
we were going to enact tariffs of half of what was put on us. But when you
Okay.
look at how that was calculated, no way. So,
Yeah, and so I think that's the place to start, Jay.
yeah,
Right? Obviously, I think unless you're hiding under a rock, you recognize that the market really not a big fan of these tariffs, and there's lots of reasons for that, and we'll talk more about that later. But what happened? Let's talk that through first. And so Jay, it's my understanding, but I haven't done like deep research into it or anything. But it's my understanding that we've now got a baseline 10% tariff on basically anything that's coming to the United States from anywhere else.
correct.
And then on top of that, we talked at one point in time about reciprocal tariffs,
Right.
and there has now been this introduction of reciprocal tariffs for those countries where we had significant trade imbalances. So imports from China specifically, which I think is a big one, now face a total tariff of 54%. So that's another 34% tariff with the
Yep.
previous 20% tariff. So we've just got like you said, Jay, tariffs on tariffs on tariffs over here. I know. I know. Again, I made fun of the board, but I noticed on there was one country that was like a 95% tariff.
Yeah, I believe that
Um,
was Vietnam.
oh boy.
And Vietnam actually has a 0.9% tariff or something like that on the US.
Uh-huh.
But the trade imbalance is
Yeah, they don't buy anything from
90%.
us. Yeah,
Right.
we buy from them only.
It's like a 90% difference. So that's
Yeah,
why that one came out, and that was the first one that had people scratching their heads. It's like, huh? Didn't make any
yeah.
sense. So
Well, it's a really interesting thing, and Jay, I don't know how much we talked about this before, but particularly in this case, like the idea of imposing tariffs when there's a trade imbalance is just it doesn't really make a lot of sense because the reason that there's a trade imbalance is that someone has a competitive advantage that we're exploiting, and by being able to exploit that competitive advantage, we as America are winning
well, and
because we don't have to pay as much for goods, right?
the consumer is winning.
That's true.
And so that is the perception that America's losing and being taken advantage of because the manufacturing isn't being done here.
Yeah.
But we are winning because I mean, let's face it. I mean, if I was to buy this t shirt made in America, it probably cost more than what I paid for it.
Yeah,
And when I say cost, I
absolutely.
mean it costs to produce
Before
it
it's marked up,
more than
right?
what I paid for it. By
Yeah.
by buying it from Vietnam or
Vietnam,
China
Thailand.
or Thailand. It might have been Thailand, not Vietnam. I thought Vietnam.
Oh, fine.
But yeah, it might have been Thailand that I was thinking of. But the labor is so much cheaper, and because the labor to produce the raw materials is cheaper, the materials are cheaper. So
That's right.
and so it's just a fraction of the cost to manufacture overseas.
Yeah.
Even in Mexico and Canada at that point. And
Well, and we've talked about this on the show several times, right?
yeah,
Like you could impose a pretty significant tariff on China, and it's still going to be cheaper to produce in China.
right.
And and I don't know that that gets you a whole lot of value in that, like like the issue at hand becomes that the U.S. consumer is now paying more, um, and being taxed in this different way.
Right.
So just for clarity, again, if you've been living under a rock and don't understand what a tariff is right now, a tariff is a tax on imports. So when imports come into the United States is taking a cut, this percentage that we're talking about, 10%, 95%, whatever that number is, on top, which is then being used to like hopefully fund the support of I don't know, those ports or something, but probably not. Um,
Let's
and
face
and
it, it's to support tax cuts. I mean, the tax cuts
oh,
are being discussed in the House as we speak. So
yeah,
that's it. But the important thing about those tariffs are it's not paid by the foreign country; it's paid by the importer. So
right,
that would be the U.S. company that's bringing it in to sell it to you and I. That would
right.
be you, our listener, our watcher, who's buying these products to sell these. And that's
That's right.
why we are here and why we're talking about this topic and why we want to
That's right.
help you and make sure that you have all the information so that you can make smart, strategic business decisions.
Yeah, and now more than any other time before, because Jay, I didn't see this either, and you think I would know this, but are these were effective like immediately, right? Or
I
how?
think they went into effect yesterday or today.
Yesterday, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're already out there. So this makes this the perfect opportunity if you are importing goods. Like the landed cost calculator is more important today than it's ever been.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
And yeah,
and,
we're not going to go into it today here, but I will make sure there's a link over there. Right above
up here?
Chris's head.
Oh, over there.
Yeah,
Over there. Right here.
So
Right here.
that way you can check that out. Make sure you want to make sure you're pricing your goods where you need to be.
Right.
But the thing about it is, and you asked when they went into effect. So the cars went into effect on the 3rd. That was set a month ago. They set that
Right.
up. The other ones, I believe, went into effect immediately as soon as they were signed. And
Yeah.
the
That was kind of
only
what I
thing
thought.
that still hasn't gone into effect is auto parts, which I believe goes into effect May 2nd.
All right. Well, we'll have to continue to watch that. I honestly, I thought when the market was gonna, when the market reacted to that there was gonna be a pullback, but at least as far like as we've seen so far, like that has just not been the case. So it seems like these are here to stay for at least for right now. The immediate like economic impacts, like I mentioned, the stock market was down something like 5% yesterday, and looks to be on the path to maybe even a worse day today. So it's been quite the tumble, which does reflect like investor concerns about potential economic disruptions. Like it mean all the uncertainty that comes with well, where do I source this product now? Now the products is costing me 95% more to buy. Like there's a lot of concerns that's going to flow through to impact businesses in a negative way.
But with the
Which again
market
is
dropping, though, it is a great advantage to invest and take advantage of cost dollar averaging and buy in more when you can. I mean, just
that's
look at
right.
the positives here.
Yeah, that's right. A second concern is one that we've kind of already, I mean, that the U.S. was already kind of battling with and had just kind of like started to slow down a little bit, but there are some inflation concerns as well, as economists have warned that increasing the tariffs may lead to higher consumer prices, and if it doesn't, that would be one of the most shocking things that could ever happen. And then those things, particularly with cars, electronics, and clothes, those will contribute to inflation. So again, if you don't see an increase in the price of goods, like that would be pretty shocking. I think part of the reason why there's been a continued drop in the stock market is that that as trade wars go, Jay, when you tariff someone, they don't like it, and they tariff you back. And so in response to the
That is it.
U.S. tariffs, China now announced additional tariffs of 34% of their own, which will be effective April 10th. So that's going the opposite direction. So if you're a net exporter, or you're selling internationally, you're going to face some additional challenge there as well. Now, granted, that's not going to be on you, because again, that's not how tariffs work. But it does mean that you're going to face some friction as far as pricing goes, I'm sure, if you are selling in an international marketplace.
Well, and
Um,
not to go back to a older topic here that we discussed way back when, about 90 days ago, but tomorrow is the 90-day deadline on TikTok, and that, as of today, got pushed an additional 75 days out. So I wasn't aware there was an additional extension on that. I wish we could do that with tax returns, that are coming due. We have that first extension. Well, you'd love to get that extension, the second extension. But, my initial thought there was China is going to retaliate with TikTok. It's still up to them to make this sale. And, TikTok is not TikTok without the algorithm. Now, granted, there has been some speculation that there has been some leakage of the algorithm, and others have been able to, kind of fake it till they made it. But we shall see there if they ever get that opportunity. But, the thing is, if I was China, I'd be pushing back and say, yeah, no, we'd rather shut it down and make that part of that trade war. So,
See, I wonder, Jay, does that mean that does that mean that all the kids are going to be on Trump Talk soon, or like what are we talking about here? Is that
they'll all be on Truth Social? Yeah, that'd be funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but that is it is a reminder that
sure.
there are like unforeseen impacts, and if you are heavily reliant on TikTok Shop, you may find some big problems coming your way in the near future, especially if there does become some escalatory retaliation in different kinds of ways that aren't tariff based in the near future.
And speaking of TikTok Shop and items coming from China and let's say Shein and Temu, so they have come up with the plan to track all those de minimis packages.
Oh no!
So guess what? The de minimis exception is gone too.
Is that now?
I believe it is ready. I don't know if they put a future date on that. I didn't check on that. I did check on it yesterday. I was ready for it, but I've been doing taxes all day, so my brain's a little foggy right now with that. But yeah.
Yeah, and that obviously that has a big impact too. If you're importing like that, if those companies, if Shimu is your competitor, and you're sourcing here locally somehow and staying competitive, like maybe this is an excellent opportunity for you to exploit this the increase in this de minimis or the reduction or whatever you would call it, the retraction of that de minimis level and threshold.
Here's the beauty of being live. I'm actually checking it right now.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah,
it was addressed on the 2nd.
All right.
And May 2nd it starts.
So all right.
So you have a month. Yeah, less than a month now.
So and Jay, remind me. I know that when we talked about this before, a lot of the tariffs are based on the day that they exit the port of exit. Is that true, or is it on port of entry?
I am seeing it's based on the port of entry because people have already had issues.
Had the impacts? Oh, okay.
This was right. There were impacts when they were implemented a month ago.
Yeah.
On the China side, and
sure.
They were immediately impacted. They were expecting it, like you said, that they would be based on when they left, not when they received, but it was based on when they hit the U.S. ports.
Oh boy, yeah. So that and obviously, like, if you think about the impacts of that, like that, it's so disruptive because you may have 6 months worth of goods that are sitting on a boat that you had ordered 3 months ago, and expected to get with a 10% tariff, and now you're paying a 54% tariff, and that's just really difficult to plan for and plan around. So that makes it really disruptive. It also has a huge impact on cash flow, because you don't get to like pay the tariffs like you pay your taxes. You don't get estimated tariff payments. You have
Yeah.
to pay those now, and so that's a big problem,
Yeah, that will come
for,
due.
for
It'll come
sure.
due fast.
That's right. Um, Other countries have indicated an intention to implement countermeasures as well. So it's not just China. China just acted the most quickly here. Japan, the EU, they've all indicated that they want to implement countermeasures or potentially seek negotiations to like try and stem this off. Is what it sounds like. I don't I don't foresee Jay. I don't foresee the U.S. administration having any interest in non favorable negotiations. So not giving anything up. That's just very much not this administration's practices. Um, and that's not really how negotiations work. So it kind of seems like this might get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, at this point, it looks like we are going to be stuck with these tariffs. They said they're not going to give in this time, and that we need to prepare for some pain. So, you know, I'm okay with some pain, but what ultimately are are the results that are desired? We talked a little bit about what it costs to make products
Yeah.
overseas and here in the
Right.
U.S. You know, uh, the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union president, he is all for these tariffs. He wants to put more American auto workers back to work. But, you know, last night, was it last night? I think it was last night. I mean, it's all blending together now. Stellantis laid off 900 workers and shut down 5 plants. And they've also shut down production in the Canadian and Mexican plants. So now, granted,
Mm.
I know Stellantis because I owned a Jeep and I had issues with that Jeep, and I'm a huge Jeep guy, and Stellantis, it was having trouble selling vehicles. At one point, they had almost a year's worth of vehicles in the U.S. ready to sell.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was like 3 months ago. I don't know if that's gone down, but they've had really difficult time selling vehicles. Ford, on the other hand, and I haven't heard anything about General Motors at this point, but Ford has launched a campaign, and they immediately launched a campaign to give everybody that buys a Ford employee pricing through June. So that is it's going to help burn through the cars that they have here already, and that will help alleviate that and probably help them with cash. But by giving those
Pay
discounts,
tariffs.
right? And by giving those discounts, they're giving the American people the ability to save on those vehicles and possibly, you know, um, spend that money on some other goods, because we know
Tariffs
that there are goods that are brought into the country every day that are
all the
going to
time.
have
So many.
immediate price changes. Those would be your
Yeah.
food products, produce, bananas,
Avocados. It's bad news
avocados.
bears.
Yes. And
Bad news bears for avocado toast right now. It's not
there you
looking
go.
good.
And the other thing, what was I thinking? Oh, coffee.
Coffee. Yeah.
Coffee. So it's like I got to go to Costco this weekend and buy like
I know. Yeah.
2 months worth of coffee. And it's like, see
Right.
what's going on there. But they say it's okay, but you can stock up on coffee. Just don't stock up on avocados. Could you imagine?
They don't last that long.
No,
And
definitely
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Definitely not.
Oh, Jay. Obviously, you and I are pretty critical of these tariffs and some of the strategy that underlies what's happening here. Many economists and business leaders also argue that the tariffs could harm the U.S. economy by increasing production costs, fueling inflation, and disrupting global supply chains. And Jay, I think you and I both agree with these economists and business leaders
Yeah.
in that seems like the obvious conclusion here.
Yeah.
They also express concern. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think everybody knows our opinion on tariffs have
Yeah.
been the same since they were first mentioned. So, I mean, we're not going anywhere on that
Yeah.
thought. But, you know, it really makes me wonder because
Yeah.
it, the talking points here. Okay, we're going to force production back to the U.S., manufacturing back to the U.S. Well, first things first, there aren't all that many production facilities capable of doing this.
Yeah.
The president talks about building auto plants. And when we're building auto plants, we're also going to build facilities to produce the electricity for those auto plants. Well, that infrastructure, he says, will take 1.5 to 2 years. I would say, okay, 1.5 to 2 years just to get the facilities. Now you have to get the facilities up and running. And an auto plant is more than just a assembly line. There are
Yeah.
robots and robotic operations. Who's going to manufacture all of those? It's going to be made in China. So it's like it's a vicious circle here, and I guess
Well,
at some point we can, but the whole point of and I don't want to get into a political argument about any of this, but I don't agree with what the Biden administration did across the board. I don't agree with what some of the things that the Trump administration is doing across the board. But the infrastructure act that was enacted, they tried to
yeah.
produce more chips, more electronics in the U.S.
Yeah.
By doing so, building the infrastructure, that's the whole point of what that bill was. We could have,
Right.
4 years ago, been building these robots.
That's right.
And had a plan for that. But, at this point, I think it's like you're sticking the fork in the American economy for this. And, we'll have to see where that goes. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, Jay, because I think you're onto something like pretty big here, right? This idea, and especially, I mean, auto facilities are the kind of your typical tariff summary, right? Because the ending thing has a whole bunch of components. Those shops, the UAW, like you mentioned before, like they're one of the biggest unions is out there. They're employing loads and loads and loads of people. But one of the things to think about is, like you're talking about, the time frames of all of these things. I have been really, really focused on Rivian and some of the stuff that Rivian is doing, which is an American manufacturer of vehicles. My wife wants to buy one, so I've been so focused on seeing what's happened. They were going to build a plant, I think, in Georgia, but they had to stop. And they had to put it on hold because they weren't making enough money and they didn't have enough cash. And so when you think about the things that these tariffs are going to do, and especially to those car manufacturers, you mentioned already Stellantis having trouble selling cars. You mentioned Ford giving the lots of discounts. Like, where is the capital that's going to build this additional facility going to come from? And again, I don't want to get political either, but I do think that there was a strategy miss on, if you're going to do this, either number one, you have to do it at the right time, or number two, you need to do it more strategically, where you're coupling that with some kind of funding. Like you're saying, we're going to use this tariff money to build facilities that are going to help us that's going to help us to replace this production that we would have pulled from somewhere else. Right. And without having done something like that, or at least making that clear, and it definitely doesn't appear like that was the intention at all. It just looks kind of short-sighted.
Well, last night, this it attracts me to watching news and just getting as much information as I can, because it impacts us all as consumers, and it impacts our customers and the people we advise. So I want as much information. So their plan is to have tax cuts to help facilitate some of this, but tax cuts aren't enough capital to build plants.
No.
It's gonna help them once they're built, because you don't get a tax break on an asset you put in until it's put in service.
That's right.
So it's going to take some time. So so we shall see. But my thought there was, yeah, the the way the Biden administration, they were just doing, they were spending a lot of money that might have triggered some of the inflation. But at
Yeah.
this point, you know, instead of being retaliatory, let's work together, build these plants, work with Apple to build this facility to make their computers, work with
Yeah.
the companies that are making the robots to build the cars, and do that over time so that we can bring the manufacturing back. But at the same time, we have a labor shortage.
Yeah. Well, that was
Yeah,
the other thing that I was going to talk about is if we want to bring all these facilities back, somebody's got to observe the robots, and at least as far as I'm aware, and I haven't kept up that closely with this, but at least at one point in time, not that long ago, our unemployment rate was pretty low, and so there's just not there. Number one, there aren't that many people who are qualified to do these jobs, and then on top of it, there's not that many people that are unemployed anyway,
right.
um, and so I think that I think there's a lot of interesting ways that this can shake out. I do want to just openly say the supporters' perspectives, right? Proponents of these tariffs believe it's a necessary step to protect American industry from unfair foreign competition. It's interesting to me that the perspective is that this is unfair. Um, and maybe that's a more maybe that is a more political discussion of if you can pay people less in China, is that okay? Are we facilitating a problem by buying cheap Chinese goods in a different kind of way? But also to promote long-term economic growth, and therefore like national security. So I've talked to a friend of mine about this a lot of a dependence on another country makes them feel like there's this national security interest because you have this exposure.
That is
The
very
the hope
true.
I think Yeah, the hope I think is that obviously we've talked about this a little bit that this will revitalize domestic manufacturing, but I don't think that that happens right away, and it certainly doesn't happen without an intention, right? A push, if because consumers and businesses are only going to favor domestic production when it's affordable, and it can only be affordable when there's an alternative that makes sense, right? And we've talked about that before. Like a 50% tariff on Chinese goods doesn't make it less affordable than it would be here in the U.S. It just makes it more expensive. And so I don't know that maybe it's closer now than not maybe it's obviously closer now than it was before, but that's a thing that business owners need to think about. And we talked about that whatever it was a month ago. That feels like forever ago, but I think it's only been a month ago, where we when we talked about this the first time, because that is something as a business owner you really need to be thinking about. You need to be talking to those manufacturers here in the U.S., the people who have already built the plants, not the people who are going to need to, but the people who already have those plants. You need to understand how much it's going to take or how much it could cost to source goods locally. Like you needed to be doing that already. And if anything, this will continue those conversations, right? Um, and there's this interesting idea too, Jay, of self sufficiency, which again I think depend on your individualized viewpoints, whether they're political or just like kind of how you view the world.
Right.
I, uh, I tend to view the world as a global economy where self sufficiency as a nation is not really relevant because you're in the whole world. Everybody's living here together. We're all we need to be a world sufficient, where everybody can live a life that they want to live, not just the U.S. people. Um, but not everybody feels that way, right? And
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 you're dead on there. I mean, in a world where we can get on an airplane and be on the other side of the world in 12 hours, it's a global
yeah,
economy. I mean, it truly is. I mean, we can
yeah,
meet. manufacturing chips in China, bring them on an airplane, and transport them and have them in the U.S. going into product the next day. You know,
Yeah.
100 years ago, it would have had to go on a ship. It would have taken 3 months. You know, it's not
Right.
so global. But today, we are in a global economy, and that's exactly how it's going to work. And
Yeah.
again, from what I was hearing on the news last night, uh, there are a lot of proponents of the tariffs, and what they're saying is, you know, well, maybe the suppliers will not pass it along and they'll cut their price. You know, think about what we're saying on the other side. Okay, we're getting that extra price. We have to bump up our price. So,
Uh-huh.
do you really think that manufacturers are going to? And actually, we have a client that we work with that actually did happen in the past. They did cut their price to facilitate for some of the uh, tariffs that they were being charged for. But I believe
Yep.
they also increased their purchase by like tenfold and had a large volume that they purchased. But turn that around, okay? Now
Yeah.
that we have reciprocal tariffs being placed on our reciprocal tariffs, we have farmers selling corn and soybean and other products like that okay, they need to
Have
sell
where
it. Are they going to absorb it and take less money for it?
for something that's already being subsidized, right? Like
Right.
something that's already like the lowest possible price.
Exactly.
Yeah. I
I
I
mean,
I,
I
I
don't
worry
see
about that a
that.
lot.
Yeah, and that's where that part of that plan goes awry because it's been as quickly as we've enacted it, it's being turned back on us, and
Right.
now we have the same situation, and
Yeah, we're
it's
about
like,
to end up with
okay,
this with warehouses full of rotting corn or whatever.
right, and what happened last time that happened? The government paid for it,
Yeah.
so it just
Who
doesn't
could have
work.
imagined?
So,
Yeah.
we want
That
you
tragedy.
as e-commerce business owners to be looking at this. It's like, okay, are you selling product that is going into Vietnam or Thailand, wherever that 45% tariff is? And what are you going to do? I mean, are you going to actually lower your price based on that? Because odds are you have a tight margin on that product anyway. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to lower that and absorb it. It's hard to absorb the the tariff on the incoming side as well. I mean,
Right.
we talked about you have to protect your margins and make sure you're getting that landed cost.
Yeah,
So
because what, and I think that like is a fundamental thing of capitalist business, right? Like, no one wants to run their business with the intention of breaking even, right? Like that isn't your strategy. Like no e-commerce business owner is running their business to break even. You
yeah,
want to be able to make profit. You want to be able to enjoy the fruits of those profits. Like that's the whole point of running the business is that you have developed something that is such good quality that you have a competitive advantage and you want to take advantage of
yeah,
it.
and I'm having those conversations this week because people are having to pay their tax bills, and
Yeah,
why did my taxes double? Well, your profit doubled, so take
yeah,
that.
made
I
twice as
mean,
much money.
it's a great problem to have.
Right.
And that's why you need to sit down and plan that out and understand it. But when you don't plan for things, it doesn't go the way you want it to. So but in this case, you start your business to make a profit. You have an
Right.
expectation of that profit, and this is going to make you shift your expectations. So
Right.
let's go back 5 years ago. And I don't want to go back into that time, but we had a pandemic. And what did we have to do? We had to pivot. We had to make a plan and figure out the best way forward. And that's what we have to do today. So,
Yeah.
grab your team, your e-commerce teams, figure out what you're doing, what your pricing is, what you can shave, what you can increase, where you can withstand a cut, and where you can withstand to raise. And that's it. And work with your advisors like us so we can help build forecasts and scenarios and get you going in the right direction, because that ultimately is what you're going to need to do for the next 3 days to
3 years.
4.5 years.
No,
We don't know. I mean,
no idea.
they could all go away by Monday,
Oh
but I doubt it.
yeah, wouldn't hold my breath.
If history holds true, I would guess we wake up tomorrow morning to some other news of something else happening because Trump likes to release things on Friday at 6. And that's when we got all of our news about the PPP loans and all of that great stuff. So, and we've seen it happen already. So, I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't a shift already tonight, and we'll find out when we wake up tomorrow. But maybe not. Maybe it'll be next Friday. Maybe we need to, we're not moving the show, making it any later. Catch that news. But, we will keep you up to date on all of that.
Yeah, we'll be right here to talk about it. Obviously, Jay, there's an interesting thing. Like the U.S. government, by imposing these tariffs, is looking to generate like $700 billion each year in estimated revenue. An interesting perspective on that. If these tariffs are really effective, that $700 billion like goes over time because you're not importing as many goods when they get here,
right.
And so does that mean that we're going to have to replace it somewhere down the line? I don't know. I don't know if there's been conversation around that. And then there's an expectation that that there will be like a revisiting of maybe global tax or trade practices to compel other nations to lower their trade barriers and tariffs. But again, as we've kind of already seen, that feels unlikely. And certainly with China, it was the exact opposite. And I'd expect that over the weekend we'll see some other communication of other nations that are doing similar things. So Jay, there's to some degree, right? Like hold your cash and wait to buy, right?
Yeah.
There's I don't know that we're at the bottom because there are some things that could potentially happen. But at the same time, Jay, like you're talking about, you never know. The surprise could happen. A surprise funding of whatever, like 100 facilities or something, could come out, and by Monday it's like a 10% back up or something. Who knows? But that uncertainty is part of what makes this so challenging.
For sure.
And then anytime that you're in an uncertain position like that, like Jay mentioned, one of the best things that you can do is make sure to have a quality advisor, somebody who can help you work through, if X happens, what do I do? Or if Y happens, how does that impact me? Right. And building out those models in forecasts associated with the different options that could occur can be really, really powerful and give you the ability to make decisions that are the best ones for you and your company. And so that's, again, like Jay mentioned, that's what we like to do, and that's what we're here to help with. Jay, what other things did we want to talk about with respect to tariffs?
That's a great question. We've exhausted pretty much what I had in my mind about this.
Yeah.
Now, come Monday, there might be a whole other plethora of topics to cover. But at this point, we just want y'all to know that you all will make it through all of this.
Yeah.
And that's the key. Being agile, being able to think, having the information to make these decisions. It's all important. And being able to take action and pivot when you need to. So keep your heads up. Yeah. Keep the sales going. Keep the inventory moving. And
well, yeah. That is an interesting thing too, because we've talked about this a whole bunch of times, right? And so maybe if you're selling on Amazon, this is really gnarly. But if you're not, like, now might be an all right time to stock out some of your bad movers, or you're like, it's probably an excellent time to revisit your product portfolio. And understand like which ones of these products are really the ones that drive and support your business, and which ones are really, if you really truly think about it, are holding you back. Because the possibility exists that you have some great products, and the possibility also exists that you have some just absolute trash that you'd be better off not selling. And especially as the price of those goods are changing, like that may be that much more true today than it was even a week ago. And so it is a perfect time to revisit what your company is doing, so that you can respond properly on a going forward basis, and make sure that you understand the different options that you do have in order to help to improve your business.
No,
So
and you brought that up. That's a great point you brought there. And when we talked about this last, we talked about looking at alternative suppliers.
yeah,
So
right. This is a
look at the products that you're making or you're selling, and look at where you are purchasing them from, and then get that big board and
yeah.
see if they might be available from a
Get this
country
man an easel.
where where the tariffs are lower. So that's always an option, and looking at that, looking at the products themselves, you know,
Yeah. Do,
it's nothing should be left to the imagination at this point. Look at everything.
Yeah, well, and then also like refocus on the vision of your company, right? What do you want to be? Or do you want to be the brown beer seller, or do you want to be the all beer seller? Like, do you need to like target in on the thing that's truly the thing you do the best, or are all these sundry and supporting products really where your business thrives? And so there is no time like a time of uncertainty to do exactly that. And so yeah, that's really the advice that I'd leave you with this week is take a time to take stock of your business, take a time to understand where you truly sit, and don't hesitate to understand and know that changes can be made that may have significant impacts and be able to do big things for your business on a going forward basis.
Most definitely.
Um, yeah, I don't know that we have got much else to talk about as it comes to tariffs.
Well, there is one last thing, and
Oh, let's go.
so made in America. It
Hmm.
it is a tag that you have to register your products. They actually verify that your products are made in America.
Oh, is
You
that
can
right?
use that on all of your advertising, make those claims. And in that case, you could also possibly mark up those products because there is a specific population of people that are looking for those items. So do some of that research too. See what it would cost, and and for some reason, dog collars come to my mind. I don't know why. Maybe because Sally's. I mean, she's not laying here today, but
Today.
normally she's right there, and it's like she
Yeah.
has her pink and light blue collar on usually. But it's
Yeah.
like that was where my mind went. It's like dog owners love Made in America.
It's true.
And
They do.
so look at your niche, and you actually made me think of it when you said, look at yourselves and see, do you want to sell beer or do you want to sell brown beer? So think about that. So it could go in multiple different ways. So it might be
Right.
worth investing in a line of Made in America while you have all your other products, and have your different lines and see, A/B test that stuff and see where it goes.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And I think that is truly that's the takeaway from today, right? Obviously, there are weird stuff happening in the market, but what that ultimately means is that it's time to focus on you, time to be thoughtful about what your business is intending to do, and then execute that strategy in the best way that you can. So maybe it's a super positive time, Jay. Like you said,
Yeah.
it looks a little dreary. It's pretty red out there in the stock
Yep.
market, but this is there. Those times when things are not going that great often present the best opportunities,
Most
because
definitely.
like you mentioned, Jay, one of those examples is when the prices are down. Now the stock's on sale. It's stale in the stock market,
Exactly.
right?
Find that
So
investment you've always wanted. Jump in
that's
there.
right. That's right. And so
Take advantage of it.
there's definitely some value in taking that perspective in a period of uncertainty like we're in. So that's what I'll be advising people to do, Jay. and
Sure.
and I hope that those of you that are listening that's what you'll do. Um, Before we get out of here, Jay, it's obviously Friday, and who knows what kind of news or whatnot's going on, but you have exciting plans?
No exciting plans, luckily.
Luckily,
No,
huh?
this is a low key weekend.
Yeah.
And ordinarily this would have been a dance competition weekend. Always the
Oh.
weekend before the tax deadline is always a dance competition weekend. And my buddies
Yeah.
are heading off tomorrow. Going to be gone all day from 6 a.m. to about midnight at the dance competition. I'll be at home. I will
Yeah.
probably watch me some racing. It's throwback weekend at Darlington. I will
Ooh.
crack open my bottle of Traveler whiskey and toast up to Justin Allgaier. Hopefully he pulled off the win there. And yeah, I got some other stuff I'm working on. I actually spending some time in Azure this weekend, working on
Ooh.
building some technology. So yeah, hopefully we'll have something to talk about next week.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. Looking forward to hearing more about that.
How about you? What's
I
going
don't,
on your weekend?
well, I don't know if I mentioned this, Jay. My wife, she left yesterday for a bachelorette party, which is the first time that she has been away from our daughter for the like night morning combo. Sometimes she's missed the morning, sometimes she's missed the night, but never both.
Yeah.
And I got it's daddy daughter weekend over here. So
That's
not
huge.
quite a dance competition. Maybe we'll have to do a dance competition
There you
because
go.
it looks like we're expecting an inch and a half of rain between now and the end of Saturday. So that really a week ago I was really hoping for some park time,
Yeah.
get outside, enjoy some sunshine, take a walk. Guess we're gonna have to do a dance party now, though.
Yeah. Well, if she puts you in a tutu, we want pictures.
I don't know that we have one that I could fit into, Jay, but that's not it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
Never had that opportunity, so I'm lucky.
All
No
right.
pictures, never happened.
So you claim
It never
someone
happened.
someone will have to get real deep out there on the internet to find that one. Um, so yeah, I'll be hanging out with my daughter all weekend.
Yeah,
So
cool.
that should be a joy.
That's
Looking
awesome.
forward to it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it, and yeah, hopeful. Maybe the rain will mostly happen over the evening, but it does look like it's almost all the way till Sunday morning. Maybe we'll get to the park on Sunday, but doesn't look good for tomorrow.
Sending positive vibes for sure.
Yeah, we'll need them. We'll
Yes.
need them. Anyhow, regardless of what happens this weekend, as you are aware, we'll be here next week, same time, same place, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, to talk about maybe tariffs again, maybe a new benefit package, maybe tax cuts, maybe who knows what, Jay. But whatever it is, we'll be here to respond to it and talk to you about it and how it impacts you and your e-commerce business.
If you've
Hopefully,
given any thought to any of this tariff talk or how it's impacting you, let us know in the comments. And
yeah,
we want to
please.
know. And if there's anything we can do to help, shout out and let us know. We're here.
highrock.co, find us. We're here. Otherwise, thanks everyone for watching and spending time with us today. We will see you next week. Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.